Coming up on the Broadway Shuffle, how Texas Tech conquered Kansas in the fog and what this win means for your program. That and much more next. Episode 57 of the Broadway Shuffle, wherever you may be and however you may be listening, we are glad you are here. We've got the original crew back today. Zyler, Clayton, and Conrad are here. I'm Brennan. If you're on Spotify or Apple, make sure to hit that 5-star review and follow so you never miss an episode. And if you're on YouTube, looking at our handsome faces, we're glad you're there as well. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. 57% of people that listened to our last episode were not subscribers. Change that, and you might be able to become the subscriber of the week. Let us know you're in the comments. We'd be happy to talk with you, and we're glad you're here. So, man, gentlemen, still coming off the high of your second ever win in Kansas and Lawrence, man, in the fog, Allen, all of this hype surrounding it, but you went in there and took care of business. Got a little rocky there in the second half, but you found a way. Z, I'll go to you first, man. Initial thoughts on the game and just the excitement level of actually finding a way to beat Kansas. First time since 2018, you've been able to knock them off in Lawrence. What do you think this means for Texas Tech? And does this change maybe how you view the team going into March Madness?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really helps firm up your seating position. I think, probably 60 to 70% of the bracketologists today have you on the 3 line, which is huge. I can't decide how I all the way feel about this. Obviously, your second win there is really, really impressive. But does it say more about Tech or does it say more about Kansas? I can't decide. But you really are a lethal team when you have all, kind of all engines going. Like when all of your players are healthy, you are very, very tough to guard. And I didn't really mind that we were taking so many threes. I know it was 40 plus, but I didn't feel like we really took a bad 3-point shot. I'm fine with our guys taking that. I was reading Evan Miyakawa's blog the other day, and he talked about Tech has 5 players that are in the 94th percentile or better for 3-point shooting accuracy. And the second best team in the country only has 3. So you have the best 3-point shooting team, in my opinion, in the country. I thought you had a great game plan. You led kind of wire to wire. Excellent result for you and kind of really puts the 3 seed in line for you.
Yeah, Clay, 43 three-pointers, program record, 15 of 43 from beyond the arc. Christian Anderson hits 5 of those. We were watching the game together, and just to Z's point, there were maybe just 2 or 3 of them. Maybe Elijah Hawkins, deep step back and a quick trigger on Christian Anderson on one part. But other than that, I mean, you took not only 43 threes, but mainly efficient threes. It's impressive to watch when you can get that many good looks from beyond the arc, and you're going to beat a lot of teams if you're able to do that.
Yeah, agreed. I agree with Zyler that there wasn't a lot of 3-point shots that I saw that I thought were a bad shot. And with the way they were calling the game, I mean, even when you were driving, you couldn't really get a foul call. So I don't mind us, taking. And I feel like that's how Kansas was defending us too. Like they were forcing us into above the break threes a lot. So I'm fine with taking them. That stretch where we went 0 for 9 to start the second half was pretty rough. But yeah, you found a way to rebound from that. Credit to Elijah Hawkins, man. I think he was 0 for 4, 0 for 5, and then he hit 2 huge threes after Kansas had taken the lead. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like that's how you're going to win in March. The good thing is you've seen Tech win this year. Even when they've had down shooting games from the 3, you have other ways to win. But, if you're wanting to beat an Auburn, a Duke, or teams like that in the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, you're going to have to knock down some threes. So it's good to see Tech be able to, like Zyler said, we have so many guys who can do it. So good to see.
Conrad, I might not be allowed to necessarily read everything we talked about and how excited we were about your levels with Christian Anderson and Elijah Hawkins yesterday in the second half. But, man, watching what they did, I mean, I know it's a pretty impressive, but we keep falling more and more in love with this kid. Talk a little bit about Christian Anderson's performance and what this means. I mean, this guy is quickly becoming, not just a fan favorite, but a media favorite. I mean, everyone is hype about Christian Anderson. He is now getting national attention in the college basketball landscape, which is great for your program, but also could be a little scary with the way NIL goes now. But man, talk a little bit about Christian Anderson, his performance yesterday.
Christian throughout the entire season has just gotten better and better. He's more comfortable on both sides of the floor. He's played better defense as the season has gone on. And when you see him knock down threes like that, I mean, you just have to be extremely encouraged for the role he's playing this season and even can in the future. I'm looking at the stats right now. He was 5 of 10 from three, so shooting 50%. I mean, that's a big deal. And then he had, he had 15 points. Obviously, didn't score anything else besides a 3-pointer. But the dude is just a great player. I mean, he fits so well in McCasland's scheme. He plays his role so well. He understands, when he needs to give the ball up or when he needs to make a play. And he's got, I would say, obviously, Chance has the best looking stroke on the team, but Christian's right there. I mean, he's got a really good looking shot. And, I know that people think, okay, this might not be good because he's such a heavy media favorite right now. I have full confidence that he will be playing in Lubbock next year. I think we'll pony up the cash to keep him here and to make whatever needs to happen. But he has to keep playing like this as we go on into March because he's such an X factor for you. I think, I think all these other guys, they really have their roles. But Christian, to me, if he's playing at that kind of level that we saw yesterday, that's only going to be a really, really good thing for your team going into the tournament.
Three things, Brennan. I think Christian Anderson's defense is what really has elevated his minutes.
Yep.
He's gotten so much better in that regard. 2, did y'all notice Bill Self pass McCasland in the handshake line? I don't even think he looked at him. It was a blow-by of all blow-bys. That was kind of interesting. I didn't notice that till I rewatched the game this morning. And then 3, man, I love to see Darian hit clutch shots at the end of the game. I still think when we need a bucket at the end of games, you went to him in the St. Joe's game, and he unfortunately didn't come up. He missed it in the Iowa State game. But to see him hit that 3-point shot against Houston, and then obviously that 3-point shot in Lawrence, great to see going forward, and glad to see him play that well.
Yeah, and I guess a good question to ask too is it's March. Let's go first round, second round matchup. Let's say second or Sweet 16. First round, hopefully you're not in need of a last second shot against a 13 or 14 seed.
Sure.
Are you going to D5 or are you going to Christian? Are you going to Chance Z? If I had to give you've got to draw up a last second play right now, a tie ball game. Who are you going to?
Oh, it's the D5. You get him switched on a smaller guard and let him either pass out or take it up to the rim. I think that's been one of your most consistent. You can neutralize Toppin if you just double team him and he has to pass out. I don't think is as good of a facilitator. I think Christian, if you had 3 seconds and you got to go all the way up the court, I'd rather have Christian have it. But if I've got 30 seconds, I think I'm going to D5.
Clayton?
I'd probably agree. Although I wouldn't mind going to Chance in the ISO. That's what we did against Houston, and that worked for us as well. But yeah, I'm not going to JT. That's no disrespect from him, but in that situation, he's getting doubled for sure, and then you're gonna have to score off a pass out. So either Darion or Chance for me.
Conrad?
Ditto. Agree with everything they said.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I think that's the beauty of the versatility of D5 is that he can beat you, he's really good at getting to his spot off the dribble, and he knows where he wants to get to, which is a skill in basketball, but he can also knock down a big three. And we've seen him knock down big threes against Houston, now against Kansas, against Arizona State when he needed some buckets at home too. So I would trust D5 the most, but I would also not be mad. It's not like you'd be like upset if Christian Anderson got a good look or Chance got a good look, or even if you were able to get Toppin in a single situation, which probably wouldn't happen to your point. But that's a great problem to have as an offense when you feel pretty comfortable with 4 or 5 guys, trusting them to hit a shot at the end of the game. Conrad, I do want to read one text from you because this is usually texts in the Broadway Shuffle group message don't leave the chat, but this one was really sweet. And I thought this one felt good enough. Guys, I think I'm in love with Grant. I've never felt anything like this before. You wanna elaborate on your?
Hopefully Morgan's not listening.
Yeah, hopefully your wife isn't here. She doesn't listen. No way, Morgan's not 9 minutes in. You want to I want to give you maybe a time, man, just to share your love for Coach McCasland, and you obviously felt just a sense of joy yesterday, man.
Does Baron Morton know you're cheating on him?
Yeah,
No, he doesn't.
That's a great. Let's go there too after this. I would love to see if he had to choose Grant or Baron, who he's picking.
One thing at Texas Tech, and I think our listeners can relate to this, is that we want to win more than anything, right? Like that's a big deal. That's the name of the game. But if you can win like we are right now in basketball, and you can have a guy that you respect and is just a great human being, like Grant seems to be by all accounts, what an awesome thing that is to have. Obviously you've got that in the football program, and Joey, everybody loves Coach McGuire, but especially with Grant, you just see he's such a fantastic schematic coach. Zyler can speak to that much more than I can, but just seeing him, and even because he gets so animated when something goes wrong, but if you notice, he's just as animated when something goes right.
Mhm.
He's pumping Christian up. He's excited to play with all, or to coach these guys and encourage them and tell them when they're doing a good job. I mean, he just seems like he's not an easy coach to play for, in the sense that he's going to tell you when you do something wrong. But he also seems to be such a guy that's like, hey, when JT makes that play, or when Christian makes that play, or when Chance gives that extra effort, he's going to make them know that. And that's so apparent from just watching the game on TV, even seeing a couple games in person this year. That's just so obvious. And I think that really speaks a lot to his character, of who he is and how much he loves coaching basketball, but just the kind of man he is. And so that was why I sent that text. That was obviously a little exaggerated, but he is a great coach. And like I've said, I mean, he, I hope he's the coach here at Texas Tech for a very, very long time. So that's why I said that. But just watching him during that Kansas game, it was really, really cool to watch him coach.
Conrad, me and some buddies were talking about this, and I wanted to pose this question to you guys. If you had to pick a coach for the next 10 years for your program, he's not going to leave, not going to do anything, he's going to get the same amount of resources. Would you rather have Beard or would you rather have McCasland?
You want me to go first, or does anybody else want to take it?
I think I'd love to hear from you, since you're in love with our current head coach. Could you ignite your former love for Coach Beard?
This is such a hard question, because we're asking this question obviously on the backside of what happened with Coach Beard, and so just based on that alone, I don't think I can ever say that. Now, Chris did take us to, obviously national championship, obviously Elite Eight. Those things are fantastic. I'm not going to dispute them, but same amount of resources. I mean, what Grant's done so far in these 2 years, particularly with that team last year, and then retooling this year, I've just seen so much with McCasland that I'm like, yeah, that's a guy that not only from a winning standpoint has really gotten the most out of his teams, but from I'll say it, a character standpoint, I'd rather have him around our student athletes than Coach Beard, just with what happened. No disrespect to Chris, but at the same time, we've got to choose what's best for our university. And McCasland's a great ambassador for the school and a great leader for the basketball program. So I'd go Grant, but I can totally understand why someone would take Beard with the success Beard had, because you can't dispute that, right? He is largely responsible for the foundation that's laid, but I'd go McCasland right now. Brennan, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Dude, it's so funny, Z, you bring this up now, because last night Clay and I were watching the 2019 March Madness run up until when Norrance hit his free throws, and then we turned it off. And so I don't know if you guys know this, but if you do that, you can pretend you actually won the Natty in 2019.
It's great.
The
banner.
It's
the beauty of technology, right?
Yeah, it is. But watching Beard and Adams and that staff, and just seeing how that team was able to play, like, obviously no disrespect to what Chris built here, whether he left or not and how he left, he obviously wins everywhere he goes, and he's winning at Ole Miss now, and they'll make the tournament again, and he won at Little Rock, and he obviously built Texas Tech. And so I can see a situation, to Conrad's point, where it's like, man, if I knew the guy was here for a decade plus, like, who's going to build the better program from day one to year 10? Honestly, what I've seen from Grant is just as impressive, if not more. And who knows what this team, I believe this team has Final Four capabilities. I do believe this team could play for a national championship team, or a national championship game. So knowing what I know from what Beard did just on the court, not leaving you, and what Grant has been able to do just in 2 years after the year that Adams had, like, Beard, at least, if you look at what he did, Tubby Smith, we talked to Norrance about this last week, and if you haven't listened to that episode, go check it out. But Tubby Smith really built you a solid foundation that Beard took and improved. But Justin Gray, Keenan Evans, Zach Smith, those dudes, really outside of Culver on that 2018 team, were Tubby's dudes. Beard took it and elevated it. McCasland took over from an Adams roster that was completely screwed. That Adams, you have a horrible year in the Big 12. You do nothing, and you're a 6 seed last year, and you're going to be a 3 to 4 seed this year. I would take Grant just based off what I've seen. I think I agree with Conrad on what he does as an ambassador of your school. I think he's more involved. I think he's maybe more of a little humble guy. I think Beard seems to have a little ego to him. Grant really seems to check his ego at the door and just love on the kids and want to coach hard and win basketball
Mhm.
games. So I'm going to go Grant. Clayton?
Man, it's honestly closer for me than I feel like it is for y'all. I'd probably take Grant, and there's not really any question for me of like if you have a group of 10 guys and you're picking a coach, I would take Grant. I think he could get more out of that group of 10. I still think that Beard could probably put together more talent on a roster, and like his run from 2018 to when he left Tech and then got dismissed from UT. You know, he took us to the Elite Eight and the national championship, and then Adams, you know, with a lot of his players, took us to the Sweet 16, and he had Texas in the top 5. So I don't want to diminish that, and I do feel like in the NIL era that we're in now, he could put together some really good rosters at Tech. But again, there was always like questions of fit with his talent accumulation. I feel like other than 2019 and 2018, like there was always weird fits and like a hole in the roster somewhere. So I'm taking Grant because I think he's a better elevator of talent and like definitely a better offensive coach. And I think that opens more doors for you in terms of, you know, getting guys to play for you in the future and wanting to play at Tech. And I think he's better at adapt. Like we've seen Grant win in different ways this season and have teams that are good in different ways, you know, defensively, offensively, slower paced, faster paced. So I'll take Grant because I think he can adapt more to the game around him. But I think it's closer than like a lot of people would think.
Z, that leaves you, man.
I
You
think
gonna
it's really
sweep it here?
And it's so hard because you're a prisoner of the moment and you have the guy that's actually on your team. You don't want to say, yeah, I wish I still had the other guy. So I realize, and I'll caveat with that. A couple things I think in Beard's favor. Obviously, he's done it at several Power 5 programs. You know, he's succeeded at Tech. He's succeeded at Texas. He's succeeded at Ole Miss. And I think Ole Miss is clearly the hardest of those jobs. I think that's probably a bullet in his, or a feather in his cap. The other thing, I think what Clayton said, as far as roster management and like donor relations, I think Beard's clearly better than Grant on that side. Not that Grant's bad, but I think Beard is elite, like top flight at that. And then fan and student engagement, I think Beard was very clearly better than Grant in that regard. Like our home crowds were always better under Beard than they have been under Grant. And that's no disrespect to Grant. It's just Beard was really, really good at those things. I did do a little research on this though. And in the 9 years that Grant has been a head coach in the Ken Pom era, his teams have never underperformed their preseason expectation. And we're on track to make that 9th year in a row. So if his team was picked, 30th, they've either finished at that spot or better every single time. He's one of the only coaches to ever do that. So if you get him the team, there's a really good chance he's going to make it better than you think. I think he's a better analytical player, and his staffs have been really good. Like he's almost turned over the entire staff from last year, and it's still really good. Beard, if you look at what Beard's doing, it's basically like a retread of the 2018 thing. So did Beard kind of find what works, and that's what he'll be able to do? So that would make me more concerned long term. I think it really is a coin flip, though. I think it would depend on the institution. I think Tech has enough resources to where we can be competitive. It's not going to be something like Ole Miss has resources too, but they're going to be well behind a lot of their peers. Tech is going to be one of the top 3 to 4 in resources in their conference year in and year out. And so I think in our particular case, I'd probably lean Grant, but I think all of you have made really compelling cases why you could look otherwise.
Yeah, and just for the YouTube comments, because I know someone's going to say this, like, you guys are crapping on Grant, or why are you pretending? This is just a hypothetical question. I think it's really interesting, Z. Y'all were talking about it. We're very happy with Grant McCasland. I think all of us love Grant and the direction the program's going, and we don't wish we didn't have him. But I think it's worth noting when you have a coach that had the success he had in the postseason, it's worth mentioning, if you gave me 2 options right now, sign him to a 10-year deal, they're both here. Who are you taking based off pure basketball? It is really interesting. One thing that I noticed yesterday that I really loved is Kevin Overton comes in the game. This is 2 3-pointers, then gets that transition 3 on the wing. And Grant just looks at a man, and he had just got done like obliterating him, for like missing a defense assignment. He comes in, hits the 3rd shot, the 3, and you can see Grant just pump him on the chest, say, keep shooting. And he's smiling at him. And that's like that type of coaching is, and Conrad, maybe that's when you sent the text. I don't know. And it was
that's
just
exactly when I sent the text.
Yeah. And it was just so like, this guy loves these dudes and is wanting them to maximize their effort, but will support them when they do well. I don't really know if we ever got that. I mean, I know Chris, he'd be rah-rah. He'd get the crowd going. He would really get into somebody. But to see Grant show the tough love and to see that on camera in the middle of that game was awesome. And I think that's who he is, on and off the court. And that's why these guys are playing so well. It is to be said, Clayton, to your point, I thought that was a good point. like in today's era, you've got to gel. And there were some outside of 2019 and 2018 was really, like I said, a senior led roster. You've got to be able to put a team together of a bunch of random dudes that have never played basketball together and make them fit within a year. And I think what we've seen with Grant, even last year, Joe Toussaint and Pop Isaacs, that was a weird backcourt. I don't think anyone would say you would just sign up for that backcourt. He made it effective. And Curran Walton was a big a three in that as well. This year's backcourt, true freshman, senior, you got a Toppin, you have Overton, you're trying to mesh them with Chance and D5. And this offense looks seamless. I read an article on CBS about how this offense looks like these guys have been playing together for years. It just looks like a total mesh unit. And that's credit to Grant and his staff, man. It's exciting to watch. I think this might be the most talented offensive roster you've had. 19 team, 18 team, 2022 team. This team 1 through 7 is terrifying to match up against.
Yep. Totally agree.
Quick note as well, you are now 7-2 on the road. I mean, that's something that I was not really expecting to see. Dude, I mean, that is crazy impressive.
And it's wild to me. You think about if you told me at the beginning of the year you're going to go 7-2 on the road, and 2 of those wins are going to be at Kansas and at Houston, and then you're going to wake up with 2 games left in the Big 12 season, and you're 4 games behind first place. Because I think you're 13-4,
5,
or what are you?
13-5.
Yeah, 13-5. Are we 13-5? Man,
yeah.
I sound like an idiot not knowing. But yeah, you're 4 games behind first place. Like that's nuts to me. You're not even close.
But that's a testament to how good Houston is, and one of your best wins is at Houston without your coach and your best player.
It's their only loss on the season. I won.
Yeah, you really can't control the fact that Houston just didn't lose to anybody. I mean, you go 13-5 in conference, probably going to go 15-5 if you take care of who you're supposed to take care of this next week. I would have taken that. You signed me up for that immediately. I'm taking that.
You tell me we can have that next year, and I'm taking it right now.
Yeah,
we won. It was 18 game season, but we won 14 games when we won the Big 12. Obviously, 18 game season, not a 20 game season. But you're probably going to win more Big 12 games and not get first.
Yeah. At the beginning of the season, we said that 16-4 would probably share part of the title. Yeah, and I still feel like I don't feel like the gap between Houston and us is 4 games. I think they've gotten a little fortunate. They're obviously the best team in the conference, so don't get this twisted. But like they have gotten fortunate in the Iowa State and Tech were missing key players when they played them. They escaped UCF with a win, and Kansas choked unbelievably hard in Lawrence, and they won every other game. But I don't think the gap is like 4 games between them and us.
Yeah, it is. It is wild to think though that they're outright champions with 2 games left.
Yeah, and I mean that's a testament to their program. They're going to be a 1 seed in the tournament. There's a reason they're one of the best, 4 teams in the country. But it shows that you can go and compete with them. And even without D5 and Chance, you're down 3 with 39 seconds left at home and you couldn't hit the side of a barn in that game. So it's like that shows how good. And I think that's why we're so excited for March this year, because there's almost an expectation. Like you should win your first 2 games in the tournament this year. Obviously anything can happen in March. We were watching the 20 most crazy plays from March Madness. Clayton and I were like a YouTube kick last night. Nice. But and it's just like, man, some teams lose in crazy ways, but I think this team is so talented that it's going to be really hard to beat us if you're not up to the quality, if you're not an Auburn, Duke, Houston, Tennessee type team. We're going to be a hard matchup.
Yeah,
I'm glad we don't have to play us.
Yeah. I would, from a bracketology perspective, the thing that's really helping you right now, you're playing like a 2 seed. You're 7th in the country in pretty much all the predictive metrics. You just have the resume of like a 5 seed. And so it'll be interesting to see where you slot in. I think this win today, if we want to transition to that, I think you should be one of the last 2-3 seeds in my mind. I think most of the bracketologists will have you there. So win at Colorado and then win at Arizona State. And I think you should feel pretty good about a 3 seed. Obviously, things can change. But this win is just that road record is going to look so good on the team sheet. When you look at teams that are like, they just can't win away from home, those road records are golden when it comes to what people will evaluate. And I think if you can hold on to second place in the Big 12, the committee will appreciate that. They're going to look and see, look, they lost to Houston, down 2 of their best players. They beat Houston at Houston, the only team to do so this year so far. I think you've got a lot of really strong points on your resume. If you could have just eliminated that UCF loss or that St. Joe's loss, I think you'd be stone cold lock and potentially pushing for a 2 seed.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting this next week. Z, I mean, these next 2 wins, I mean, you take care of business. Colorado at home should win. Arizona State, they obviously gave you fits in Lubbock, but you're still going to be favored. Last game of the year for them, they're not really playing for much. these wins obviously don't necessarily help you, but they could hurt you. Do you drop? Let's say you go 1-1, you win at home, lose to Arizona. I mean, are you dropping to a 5, or are you pretty solidified at the 4?
I think you go 1-1. There's almost no way I think you could go 1-1 and still be a 3 seed if you dropped the Arizona State game. I think you would be probably the last 3 seed, and it depends on what happens around you. But I think the 5 seed conversation is. I think you'd have to go 0-2.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, and even then, you still might not fall that far.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a big week still, nonetheless. I mean, March Madness is right around the corner. We are now a week and change away from the Big 12 and the conference championships, which is always a great week of basketball. It just kind of gets your anxiety levels rising a little bit for March Madness. Some quick news and notes from around the Big 12 too is BYU. Man, this team, I mean, you beat them way early, way back in January in the Big 12. This team has gotten hot. I mean, they are cooking right now. They continue to rise. Theoretically, they could, if you were to somehow go 0-2 and they were to win out in Iowa State, you could still get kicked out of that top 4. And the reason that's important is you get a double bye if you finish in the top 4 in the Big 12. All you need to do is get one more win, so it shouldn't be a problem. But that's how hot BYU has gotten, is they are now pushing the top 4 in the conference. And a team that continues to fall is Baylor. They're in danger here, man. I mean, I know they're probably on the bubble. Conrad, you love hearing this, I know, but this team has really kind of fallen off a cliff. So Baylor will have some serious business to take care of if they actually want to make the tournament. And as we've alluded to, Houston continues to dominate, outright Big 12 champs. So Big 12 basketball never fails. Iowa State with a big win as well over Arizona. So it's going to be fun, man. I mean, you got Iowa State, Houston, and Tech, legitimate title contenders, not just, Big 12, Sweet 16. I mean, I'm talking national championship aspirations. It'll be fun for your conference. So, well, I want to transition us a little bit out of basketball. Spring football is right around the corner. Before I do that, though, I want to thank our sponsor from this episode, E3 Professional Trainers. Whether you're trying to help out your team to produce better results, want personal coaching or to move to the next level in your career, or are looking for a keynote presentation to set the tone for your next conference, E3 Professional Trainers can help you create a strategy and achieve your professional development goals for your team or organization. From leadership, communication, teamwork, to time management, sales, and motivation, E3 will help your employees become more engaged in their work, be better equipped to do it, and feel empowered to live a life that will count for something after they are gone. So call them today at the number on your screen, log on to e3professionaltrainers.com, or scan the QR code on the screen to learn more about how E3 can help you. So thank you to E3 Professional Trainers for sponsoring this episode. So, all right, gentlemen, I know we've got a lot of basketball. March Madness is coming up. It's going to be crazy, but spring football is right around the corner. Conrad, Z, you guys had such a beautiful conversation. Great job on y'all's little date episode as well, too. But Clayton and I missed out on some fun football dialogue y'all got. And we are now less than, what is it, a week, 2 weeks away? I mean, this is coming up quick. Spring football is too, and guys are in the gym getting bigger. We've heard some rumors, not going to name some sources, but heard some rumors that your backup, soon to be starting quarterback here for the spring, has gained quite a bit of weight. And so there's a lot of stuff already coming out of camp that'll be really fun to talk about. Z, I guess I'll go to you first, dude, on this question, but who are you most excited about this spring? I know that you and Conrad touched on this a little bit, but let's get just into football just a bit here, as spring football is right around the corner.
Yeah, I know me and Conrad are giving some of these answers, so I want to make sure that Clayton and Brennan get an opportunity to speak on it. But I think the more that I've thought about it after me and Conrad's thing, I'm most excited truly for the coordinators. I want to hear what's coming out from the players. What are they saying about that? Is the scheme working for the guys? Where are players fitting in different roles? I think you're going to have some competition at some of those rush end spots. Who's your fourth wide receiver? Do you have Mr. Micah Hudson rejoin the? There's some other storylines that we'll be following, but I think the coordinator storylines, are they living up to what we expect them to be? And I know that's hard until you play a real team, but that'll be the thing that I'm probably most closely monitoring as we get spring reports.
All right, Clay, I'll go to you since you haven't got an official answer yet.
Yeah, it's really on the spot for me. I hadn't thought of this before right this second, but I'll say I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of the running back room. You've gone a while from Sir Roderick and Taj to just Taj, of knowing exactly what you're going to get from that position going into the season. And now you have, 3 backs who could, be the leader in any single game or a season. So I'm interested to hear who takes the lead from that position and who kind of slots in behind. I'm guessing that all 3 will, get carries in games, but who is the leader of the backfield there?
Yeah. Conrad, in terms of grouping position groups, which group do you think you're most excited or maybe should be the most improved heading into spring ball and after spring ball?
Yeah, well, I have no clue what I said on that last episode. I've slept since then, so this is fresh for me. But I'll say I could have said this, but for me, it's the offensive line.
Mm.
I think the offensive line was your Achilles heel last year on offense. Taj obviously did his thing, was able to have a fantastic season, but I'm not really. I know Brennan's answer already. I'll leave it to him to share. But whoever's at quarterback next year, it doesn't. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter because it does, but if you don't have a much improved offensive line from 2024 to 2025, quarterback, in my opinion, is just not really going to be that big of a deal. I think you've got two guys that can do it there, but with all the transfers that have been brought in, I'm interested to see how they gel. I'm interested to see how Clay McGuire gets that group to work together as one cohesive unit, because I think that's going to make or break a lot of your success. Because with Dickey and Jacoby and Quentin Joyner, none of those guys have the same make you miss the line of scrimmage expertise that Taj did. I'm not saying they can't do it because they're all electric in their own right, but they're not Taj Brooks. And so you're going to need a better run blocking unit. You're also going to need a better passing unit. And so for me, it's the offensive line without a doubt.
Yeah, that's a good answer. You kind of alluded to my answer, I guess. But one I hate to do this, but it just is a fact. You know, y'all.
No,
I
you
heard
don't.
you guys. You're right. I love this. I heard you guys talk about it on the previous episode. You asked, I think, what player was under the most pressure, and I think you guys gave. I don't know if you said Baron Moore, and I think y'all might have gone more groupings and coordinators as well too. But I do think, even though he's not practicing, that this is a big spring and summer for Baron Moore, and maybe not because of him, but because of who's behind him. And like we reported that Will's, juicing up, Ben. I mean, this guy's probably on the creatine and doing what he's legally allowed
Within
to
the
do.
rules, to be
Within
clear.
the rules, right?
Within the rules.
Not speculating anything here on the show, of course. But I do think that with Will getting so many reps and Barron not getting them, that puts pressure on Barron. So when Barron does come back, how healthy is he? Is the joint completely healed? Is he able to play, make every throw you need him to? There's a lot of pressure there for him. And so I think if you're looking at a position group that's under the most pressure, it is the quarterback room, because you've brought in everyone else. You've brought in the running backs. You've brought in the defensive tackles, the defensive edges, the offensive line, the cornerbacks, the safeties. Like name your position. You've brought somebody in. You've paid dollars to bring them in. The one group you didn't do that, not counting the Wake Forest kid who will be a security blanket, is quarterback. You're fully expecting your starting quarterback to have already been on campus for multiple years. And if that group is the reason you're not winning 10 games next year, that's a problem. And so the most amount of pressure in terms of success for your team next year is still the quarterback room. There's a reason it's the biggest position in football. And I think it's no different at Texas Tech. Quarterback play cannot be the reason you do not seriously compete for a Big 12 title. And to Barron's credit, it wasn't the reason you didn't this year. Barron had a great season. He played very effective. But it needs to be elevated. I don't think there's a question that it needs to be elevated, especially with missing Taj. Conrad, to your point, you're not necessarily going to have the security blanket that Taj was for you this year. You're going to have to go make plays from the quarterback position. We'll see if they can do that. So I think that room in general is the biggest.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
If after the first 3 games of the season, because I think I agree with Brennan, if Barron is playing the exact same way that he played last year, are you happy or frustrated?
I would be frustrated because I think the reason Barron didn't take the leap that I think he can take, and I think we all think he can take, is because how poor the offensive line was. I mean, I truly mean that. It's that offensive line last year, as I've had time to kind of go back and think more, and we're further removed from it. That offensive line was a big problem for the team, and we were able to mask it. We were able to do some things to kind of make it work, but it was a problem. And so if Barron is still the same, if you have a much improved offensive line, which I think we all think you should, and Barron's the exact same player, I will have some questions whether that's okay. Can he play? Why hasn't he elevated? Or the question that none of us want to ask: is he even healthy? That's a question that people will be asking, and so I'll be frustrated. Would you agree with that sentiment if he is playing the exact same way? But actually, let me say this: he had a couple of really good games in the first. Not obviously not Washington State, but he played pretty well against ACU. Now it's ACU, so. But if he starts the season the same way he finishes last year, it's the exact same. There's no difference. Then yes, I'll be frustrated. Would y'all agree, or would you say there's still time to improve as the season goes on?
I just think there's so not pressure because I don't think you'll be picked to win. So I don't think there's pressure on that, but like pressure internally from I think boosters and on Joey. Like I wonder how long the leash for Barron is going to be. Like how good do you have to be before they're like, okay, let the kid behind him, we got to let him rip. Like even if it's a lower floor, we clearly need a high. Like what if some of your position groups are not as good as you think they're going to be, and you need someone to be an elevator? Can Barron do that? I hope so.
This
But if not, I'll just be interested.
The scary part to that, and I fully agree with you, is if you do pull Barron and Will is not at Barron's level, you've just blown up your entire season. Like it's done at that point.
I don't think you pull Barron unless you feel really, really good about the guy.
No, of course. I'm just playing devil's advocate and saying worst happens, right? And you do pull Barron, and then Will's not at where Barron is. Even if Barron's just finishing the way he played last year, which was a good season and a good ending. So I'm not saying that's going to happen. I really don't think that's going to happen. But if you do that, say Barron's just the way he was, and you're winning, maybe you lose an unexpected game, and then you put Will in, and Will he's not actually what you think he is. Your season's pretty much done because I don't know how done in the sense of like that's a camaraderie chemistry killer if you do that with a guy that's been here for now as long as Barron's been here. I mean,
Clay,
I really think it is.
Clay, I want to go to you. I love the fact that we're talking about this on March 3rd.
Yeah.
Go.
I think that's a fine point, but I don't think that's necessarily true. Like UT pulled Quinn for Arch and then went back to Quinn, and they still made the college football playoff. Like I don't think that in itself can tank your season as long as you can manage, obviously that's not an ideal situation to like go to a backup and then have to switch back to your original starter. But I don't think that is like what would cost you your season.
I just think.
Sorry,
okay,
Conrad,
go ahead.
I was gonna say.
I'll just say this. Let me say this real quick.
You want to rock,
there's a little bit of a difference.
Who wants to go? You go.
Let me just say one sentence. I will say I think there's a little bit of a difference between. It hurts me to say this, but I think there's a little bit of a difference between Joey McGuire and Steve Sarkisian, and I think there's a little bit of a difference between Quinn Ewers, Barron Morton, Will Hammond, and Arch Manning. I don't think they're the same, and so.
What are you trying to say there, man?
Yeah, Conrad, say it with your chest.
I think Steve Sarkisian is obviously a better head coach than Joey McGuire, and I think both Quinn and Arch. Quinn is obviously better than Barron, and Arch is obviously better than Will Hammond. So I don't think it's the same one-to-one type.
This is the same.
I think Quinn is obviously better than Barron.
Yeah, I think you could. Yeah, I think they're in the same-ish tier.
This is the same guy that said Barron Morton should start over Dak Prescott for the Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, dude, I could start over Dak Prescott for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm just saying, I mean.
Conrad, are your dinner dates with Barron going to be a little uncomfortable now after this episode?
There are no dinner dates with Barron for our listeners, unless he listens to the show. So
yeah,
they do all their stuff after hours. There's nothing.
That's right. That's right. Z, I wanted to mention something though. To your point on the pressure, like you said, there's internal pressure from the boosters and stuff, but I think you have programs like Alabama and Georgia and Texas. Each year, there's pressure to win a national title. That necessarily hasn't been the case at Tech, obviously. There's been more so like, can we get to 8 wins? Can we get to 9 wins? Can we beat Texas?
Like
it was always, can we build? This offseason's different. I mean, Texas Tech paid to get to the table. It was like we haven't really earned a spot at the table, but we're paying for that spotlight. Like we're going to do all we can to make it to 10 wins, Big 12 championship to Arlington. And it's boom or bust. Max Olson at ESPN wrote an article about this a couple weeks ago. The Blanchard article that came out at ESPN. I mean, there's now national attention on this program. So you do, in a way, like not only is there internal pressure, but there is external eyeballs on you now to like, hey, is your portal class that you paid so heavy for going to produce? Joey McGuire and Leftwich and all these guys, are you going to make these guys gel to put a team that is competitive there? And yeah, if you don't, people like us and people on the booster side of thing that actually put up the money will have a lot to say. And that's kind of the price you pay for what you paid for. And so there is a lot of pressure regardless of who it's coming from, like on Barron and on everyone else. Like you are expected to go win football games next year. The building, in my opinion, is over. It's like you've got to prove what you paid for works, and you built it, and it's on Joey and the staff and the players to go deliver.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys follow it, but the S&P Plus rankings just came out, and they had you at 6th in the conference. Now, granted, you're right there with everybody. It's got Kansas State at 19th, and they're the highest at 13.7, and then it's a bunch of Big 12 teams in a row. It's TCU, BYU, Iowa State, Arizona State, 2 or 3 spots, and then Utah and Texas Tech. So I guess you're 7th in the Big 12, but all right there within like 2 points of each other, outside of Kansas State, who's about 5 points ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
And then preseason totals came out, and your initial win line is at 8.5. That's got to be the highest total you've had since 2009, maybe, or maybe 2008. I don't remember what it was then, but that is a massive number. They're expecting you to hit that. You need to win 9 games. That's something you have not done in, I think since 2009. So 16 years.
Yeah.
So man, pressure's on. Vegas maybe is believing a little bit. It'll be the highest preseason rating you've gotten from SP Plus in a long time. So there are some whispers, but oh man, it's just going to be really interesting. You got to find a way to put it together, and it'll be the same thing that we said last year. There's a lot of teams right there in the same tier. Can you win close games? And I think we did a good job of that last year. Will some of that late game execution or luck continue for you this year? It'll be interesting.
Yeah, and it's great talking about this on March 3rd, man. This is awesome. We've got so much offseason content to get through in football, but a little splice of it just to let you know what to look forward to April through August is here as well. Conrad, final thoughts on football before we transition?
Well, I appreciate you giving me the floor to maybe clarify any comment I made. I will say I do believe that Steve Sarkisian is a better coach than Joe McGuire, but the proof is in the pudding there, right? So I love Coach McGuire. He's the man. I think he can definitely end up as a better coach than Sark. But just to give Sark his credit, just being unbiased here on the Broadway Shuffle, which we almost never are. And then I do think that this football team really has a significant ceiling, right? What can we do? Who can we beat? How can we beat them? How can we win these close games? I think there's just a lot of positivity that's around this program right now. And I don't want to, misguide any of our listeners that even though there may be some disagreement about the quarterback position here on the show, that we're not all extremely excited for what this team can be, whoever's out there playing quarterback, because of all the talent you have on this roster. So extremely excited for the season, and maybe even more excited for off-season content, because it's going to be even better than what you just got here on the Broadway Shuffle.
Yeah, Conrad, appreciate you saying that. For our listeners who've been here since the beginning, you'll know this. We know we've added a lot since, but I think episode 2 Conrad did admit that he rooted for UT in the 2008 game against Texas. So
we have to make sure that everybody is versed in the Broadway Shuffle lore.
No one listens this far except for our original listeners anyway.
A lot of people do now. And so we've got to really bring it all together. And every once in a while, I think that secret love might just kind of come out a little bit. But it's squashed.
Hey, we all sin and fall short of the glory of God, and I did that night. So I did that night.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, let's transition quickly to this week in Texas Tech sports. Hey, you did win a championship this last week, actually. Track and field, West Kitley 2, women's and men's, continues to just build a consistent and championship caliber program there. So congratulations to our track athletes at Texas Tech. Continue the success there. That's awesome. Softball gets a big win. You did beat on the Aggies. Unfortunately, you weren't able to knock it out in basketball, but softball team ranked 13th continues to play well. They got a big win against the Aggies. And then unfortunately, the Longhorns, Conrad, your favorite team, did spank Texas Tech in Vegas. Pretty good. Baseball, off to a little rocky start here. We'll have to keep an eye on them as Big 12 play gets into play, but not the start to 2025 you would necessarily hope for, but still lots of baseball left. And then looking ahead this week as well, we get Colorado Wednesday night in the USA at 7 o'clock. Z, I don't know if you'll be there, man. I'll be in attendance there in Lubbock, so hopefully you can catch the game with me too, but we'll be out there, and that'll be a lot of fun Wednesday night against Colorado. So
I didn't realize it was Wednesday. I thought it was Tuesday. So thanks for letting me know.
You're welcome, man. Hey, that's why we do the segment.
Do you even know ball?
we gotta let people know. That's why the segment's there. So, all right, let's get to one of our favorite segments that we do here on the Broadway Shuffle, the Tommy Tuberville of the week. We like to pick out some fraudulent teams, coaches, fan bases, whatever, reporters, beat reporters, and politicians, whoever. It doesn't matter. They've all been here. Even I've been a Tommy Tuberville of the week here on the show a time or two. So, Conrad, I want to go to you first, actually, because I think this one deserves a nice long little spiel. That it seems to be someone that's, we all hate here on the Broadway Shuffle, but I'll let you take the floor.
Well, I don't hate this man. I'm sure he's a great guy and a wonderful individual to sit down with. But
That's debatable.
Kansas basketball has been a topic of conversation of late, and maybe no one more than Bill Self. Bill Self has been the coach at Kansas for I don't even know how many years. He's been a great coach. Won national championships, I believe. Is it 2 that he's won?
Yeah.
He's a
Yep.
great coach. He's a Hall of Fame coach. But he put out a statement yesterday that I'm not going to read to you because I don't want to bore you with it. You can just go on Twitter and search it. But he said at the end, I'm looking forward to seeing how we bounce back against a terrific Houston team on Monday. Then after that game, I'll look forward to see how we respond to a terrific Arizona team on Saturday. This is the most important time of the season, and this is the time where we need to be better. But also we need to be focused on basketball and not things being said outside of basketball that have absolutely zero merit. Thought that statement was interesting, the fact that he needed to put something out like that after you just lost to a much better team, only for the second time ever in Fog Allen. Just an interesting thing to do. Not sure what Bill Self is really doing at Kansas basketball anymore. I mean, they've definitely taken a turn since everybody else could start paying players. And so just thought him putting a statement out like that was interesting. This may be his second Tommy Tuberville of the week, but he's definitely getting mine this week. So Bill Self, you are my Tommy Tuberville of the week.
That's a good one. But Clay, I feel like you're about to double down on it.
Yeah, I probably should have gone before Conrad, but my Tommy
Yeah,
Tuberville of the week, which also a quick note on Bill Self, he is 0-2 against Grant McCasland. So some people are
Nice.
saying Grant might be the best coach in the Big 12 now. Just kidding. My Tommy Tuberville of the week is the Kansas fans that were DMing Zeke Mayo after the game. Racist comments, death threats, other general threats. All I'll say on this is I don't know if it's ever been a good thing to be a fan and DM either like a recruit or a player. So if you're ever considering, your college team has a player that doesn't do what you want to do, probably not a good idea to reach out to them via direct message. So Kansas fans, you guys are my Tommy Tuberville.
That's a good word, Clay. Yeah. That's
you.
probably smart. All right, Z, you're up.
Yeah, I went back and forth. There were plenty of. I almost went with Fog Allen. 70 years being open, and then you got smacked by a team from West Texas on your 70th anniversary. But it will not be Fog Allen today. I have found someone truly fraudulent, and it's a school up north. Michigan basketball. They are 9-3 over their last 12, which you might say, my goodness, how is that a fraudulent team? Their point differential in their last 12 games is -17, and they've somehow won 9 games. They have not beaten a team by more than 4 points since January 3rd. This is a team that's barely in the top 25 in KenPom, and they're looking at a 3 seed. This is my immediate and forever fraud or Tommy Tuberville of the week until they get knocked out of the 3 seed race or they lose in the tournament. That is incredibly fraudulent. This is not a good team. I've watched them. I am going to be fading them in March. So Michigan basketball, you are my Tommy Tuberville.
Little pre-March Madness brackets info there, Z. I like it. For those of you needing info to fill out your bracket, fall on Michigan. Lose to a 14 seed. There's your Michigan Wolverines. All right. Well, mine is I'm gonna keep the Texas love going on the podcast here today. My Tommy Tuberville is Texas basketball, man. This team, it's well deserved. Put the horns down if you're watching on YouTube. Conrad's got his horns down. Good for him. You've lost 6 of 7. You get blown out at home against Georgia. Your only win was against Kentucky at 4, which is a good win, but 6 of 7 losses against teams that really weren't even in the top half of the SEC. 16-13, 5-11 in the SEC. Rodney Terry probably getting fired, should be fired, as Clayton and I were discussing as well at the end of the offseason, unless you somehow miracle your way into a tournament bid and a couple wins in the tournament. So Texas basketball, you hire Chris Beard. He has some issues. You lose him. You keep his replacement that was on staff, and your program takes a tumble. For that, you are my Tommy Tuberville of the week, and I love to see it, man. Give me bad Texas basketball all day. Conrad, you got a question?
Are there any chances that Texas even entertains hiring Chris Beard back? Any at all?
I don't see it.
Not with the same AD.
Yeah. Just curious.
Yeah, I don't see
Didn't
it.
know. He's going to give a shout
out. Yeah, that's true. I got to give a shout out also to my honorable mention, Jacoby Gillespie of Maryland. They were in a tie game against Michigan State. They got a stop, and he takes a pull-up 35-footer with 5 seconds left, misses. Michigan State rebounds the ball and hits a half-court shot. So, anytime you can take a 35-foot three-pointer with 5 seconds left, you just got to do it. So
in a tie game, it wasn't like you needed the three.
No.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, Z, man, that's a great one, Clay. Z, why don't you close us out with our tech trivia question of the day?
Yeah, when I was thinking back, the last time that we beat Kansas, that was 2018. That was a long time. Last time we beat Kansas in Lawrence, excuse me. That was a long time ago. It's been a long time since you've knocked them off in that building. I went back and looked at the box score, and there was a lot of stuff that was kind of surprising to me. I don't know how well you guys remember that. We shot only 25% from the three there, but we had somebody that did shoot 50% from the three, and he was our leader in made three-pointers in that game. Do you have any idea who led us in three-point makes on that 2018 team? And for reference, I'll at least give you the top 7-minute getters so you can have an idea. So this was Keenan, Justin Gray, Naeem Stevenson, Lawrence Odiase, Zaire Smith, Jarrett Culver.
Was Zach Smith a top 7-minute getter of that team too, or no?
He was, but he got hurt that game. He only played 6 minutes.
Okay. Oh man, I'm gonna go wild card because I'm gonna say Justin Gray.
That's a great guess.
I want to guess Culver because I remember he had a good game, but I'm actually going to guess Naeem Stevenson.
Very solid guess, Conrad.
That Naeem was actually going to be my guess after I thought about it for a second. It was going to be Avery Benson, but then I thought better to myself of that. So, but I'd go Naeem as well. That was my guess.
Really good guesses. It was actually Justin Gray. He went 2 for 4. Not a three-point shooter. Yeah, you had Keenan Evans went 0 for 4. Naeem went 0 for 3. Jarrett Culver went 1 for 3. You shot 25%. Not necessarily a great performance from your team. Justin Gray was a 26% three-point shooter that year, but he went 2 for 4 in Lawrence. So shout out Justin Gray.
There you go, man. See, I do remember watching that. I was in Atlanta and I was at a diner trying to watch the game, and I remember Justin hitting a big three. So I just kind of, since that image played in my mind, I figured I would guess him. Memory. So there you go, man. Justin Gray. Well, man, fun episode. We'll be back on Thursday to look back at the Colorado game from Wednesday night. Also look ahead to Arizona State and then preview a little bit more of the Big 12 championship. We've got a lot of exciting stuff coming up on the Broadway Shuffle. We are going to have great content for March Madness. We'll probably be looking at doing a live bracket show Sunday evening. We've never gone live before, so it might be hit or miss. We want to try it. If you want us to do that and you're listening this far and you would watch us on YouTube while Zach's bracket is being revealed, let us know in the comments because we think we want to do it. We're not sure, but that might be coming out. If not, though, we've got content all week for you. Bracketology stuff, Texas Tech, bracket, anything Texas Tech and March Madness that week will be here for you. So look forward to that. To our subscriber of the week, Holland Hadaway. I wanted to shout out Holland. She listens to every single episode, comments on every episode, has been begging for a subscriber of the week. So shout out to Holland Hadaway. I know she listens this far into the show too. So just wanted to let her know, and make sure you are commenting on episodes, letting us know who you are, because we will be picking subscriber of the week of episodes every week here on the Broadway Shuffle. So for Clayton, Zyler, and Conrad, I'm Brennan. We'll be back on Thursday, and we'll see you guys next time. Wreck 'em.